Well, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar. I'm Eveline Oehrlich, moderator for today's event, and I welcome you. As always, we have a great webinar on tap, but before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items we need to go over. First of all, today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of the event, you will have the opportunity to access it later on. Following today's webinar, we will be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. And we are taking questions from the audience. So if at any time during today's presentation you have a question for either of our speakers, please don't wait, don't hesitate. Just use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit your question, and we'll try to get to as many as we can near the end of today's webinar. And also happening at the end of today's webinar, we will be doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So please stick around. Hopefully you'll be one of our 4 lucky winners. All right, with that, let's go ahead and kick off today's webinar, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly about value stream management. Our speakers today are Jeffrey Keyes, who is the VP of Product at Plutora. Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Hi, happy Tuesday.
Hi, happy Tuesday to you too. And we also have Eveline Oehrlich, who is the Research Director for Research in Action. Hey, Eveline, thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, hello. I thought it was Friday.
Oh, no. It's more like a Monday. It's closer to Monday than Friday, but who's counting? So anyway, I know you guys have a great webinar on tap. Jeff, I'm going to hand it over to you, take myself off camera, put myself on mute. I'll see you on the other side.
You bet. If you haven't been on webinars with me before, I just so you know, I have the pleasure of doing briefings and interviews and a number of other things in the role of my product and marketing side. And in my journeys, I get to come across some really incredible people. Evelyn is one of those really extra special people. And as I was thinking through the kinds of things we would do, it's like, man, I just want you to have a chat with Evelyn. And so it's really funny, especially that there's the birth of a new category of tooling out there called value stream management. I thought, you know, really, if I was out there looking for tools, what I would want to do is hear from Evelyn. So what you're going to hear today is a lot about, you know, Evelyn, you've got a long history of, you know, you've been an analyst, you've been a CTO, you've met with hundreds of companies, goodness gracious, your background is not only impressive, it's daunting. Thanks for being here. This is cool.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. And you see this hair is gray because of all of that work in the past, but extremely excited to share this hour with you and everybody else who's listening in.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, you have a different perception. I know you spent years with Forrester, and I know that's part of your background. In fact, it was kind of funny as I was mentioning people I worked with Forrester, and they're like, oh yeah, I hired him. And it was just funny as we were talking about all that. One of the bits that you talked about is not being at Forrester, but still being an analyst, that you now work with a company called Research in Action. What's different about Research in Action versus, you know, one of the bigger kind of vendors?
Yeah, we sometimes are called a boutique analyst company, which I think is a compliment, because a boutique, you get nice, expensive clothes, right? For us women out there, shoppers.
Mm-hmm.
But we do our work very differently from what I used to do at Forrester in terms of the work on the vendor evaluations. That's really what we do mostly. We do vendor evaluations across multiple topic areas, and the value stream management is one. I've done many evaluations across different topics, mostly focused, actually all focused on IT automation. I have to say, all of us are ex-Forresters, and we have, even though we're a boutique, we have over 100 years of experience together, which is quite amazing. It's really fun. I get to work with people like you. Remember when we met the first time in Dulles, London, 2018? Yep. It took us 2 years to work together now, so that's what is so exciting about that. But yes, we are a small company.
I love it. And when you do vendor evaluations, what's different in how you do them?
The first thing we do is we start with a survey, meaning we ask, in global studies, we have 1,500 decision makers who we actually are asking about the strategy and the execution of a particular vendor in a particular topic. Each of those topics have 4 subcategories. So there's really 8 questions, and these give us the baseline scores. we say that 65% of the score we assign is based on the customer, and the rest of the percentage is based on the analyst. Where when I think back to my waves, and again, there's a little bit of a difference because the waves and the tragic or magic quadrants go in very much depth of the solution. We don't go as much into the depth, and we don't do as many demos as those folks do. But the difference really is that we start with the perspective of the end customer, those who actually have deployed the solutions and are having the experience. Where at Forrester, we start with the analyst who defines the market, who defines the criteria, et cetera, et cetera. There's one additional difference, and I know you know this, Jeff, because the process for the vendor is very agile, right? It's like we have an hour briefing with you, we have some follow-ups, we do some fact checking. So your time investment with us for the vendor is maybe about 2 hours, where with another company, there's a lot more work involved, as you know.
Absolutely. I guess that difference, well, and to bring us today, you've been doing some stuff around value stream management, which kind of brings us here. So what are we going to talk about today?
As a matter of fact, exactly. I've been doing research in the DevOps space for a long time. And as we met, you and I met, as I already mentioned, in 2018, there was a shift already before we met. I already realized that there's a variety of things which DevOps organizations are doing, which are all really, really good, right? The focus on efficiency and effectiveness and getting things out in a velocity and quality way is very important. But over the years, over visiting events and having conversations with enterprise clients, it was pretty obvious to me that there is something missing, right? And so, as you know, things have changed. And so what we want to do today, and for those of you who already are doing some value stream management, hopefully this will be a refresher, but also just a fun hour with Jeff and I. But really, we want to dig into why value stream management. What's important? What are some of the initiatives and goals you should think about? There is a little bit of on how to. There are some challenges and some gotchas you need to watch out for. And then the good and the bad and the ugly kind of doesn't really relate to the vendors, because there aren't any ugly vendors. It's really about what do you need to watch out for in terms of some of the things you could fall into. So hopefully we both, Jeff and I, can leave you with some ideas, some inspire some questions. Hopefully we can answer. If we cannot answer them, we all have Twitter handles. You can find us on LinkedIn. We can have follow-on conversations as well. So that's really what we have prepared, right?
It is, and I love it. And so, kind of following along with this, I love the perspective you have of this isn't a vendor perception and perspective. This is here's people trying to solve real problems and what they're running into. One of the things you alluded to was you were talking about coming from the DevOps perspective, because that's where we met, was a DevOps conference. And wait a minute, maybe Agile and DevOps aren't really enough? Tell me about that. Why are people interested in value stream management? Where's this coming from?
Yeah, so we have to extend that a little bit further out. So again, of course, there's a lot of success in the DevOps adoption, right? And there is a lot of organizations who are doing Agile and so on. So, but let's kind of step back and look at it. What is it we're trying to do? Digital transformations and digital business is important. And as we know today, in where we're at a very challenging times with our pandemic, we're all in it. The good news on that pandemic is that the digital transformation has actually accelerated. Organizations have actually just spun digital services unbelievably fast. Even companies or organizations like the German DMV, which you think is never possible, but they actually have, which is beautiful. So if we think about that, the pandemic has caused a lot of telecommunicating, right? A lot of working at home. It has increased some of the robotics. It has increased automation work. It has increased, even in the IoT space, there was a tremendous amount of work happening. So first of all, we need to recognize that digital transformation is here. It's getting more and more happening into the future. Second, resiliency and reliability also have gotten an additional, let's say, attention, because as we are working from home and as our services we're providing and our software we're creating needs to be reliable, and they absolutely need to be resilient. Reliable, of course, because we want to make sure that our customers keep coming to us. And so software factories have put an incredible amount of that towards it. And then if we just look at 2021, we do know that digital is going to continue, and there'll be digital leaders and digital laggers. Now, back to the point of Agile and DevOps not being enough. We have, of course, increased in many organizations based on research. I know we've increased the speed, we've increased velocity, we've increased efficiency, but budgets are not going to go up. Depending on who you're talking to, is it Gartner or is it my former colleague Andrew Bartels from Forrester? Anything between a very, a reduction or an equal or a very, very small growth. In a recent study I think it was 1,000 CIOs, they are expecting their budgets to be cut 4.1% next year, which means these executives, CIOs, and their partners at the C-level need to put a value lens on what they're doing. And that value lens, they need to be having a capability of leveraging KPIs above and beyond DevOps and Agile to show that their software factory is actually producing the right things for their employees to keep them safe and effective and efficient, and for the customers to be satisfied, which is DevOps is good, Agile is good too, but there has to be another complement with it, and that I see as value stream management.
That's awesome. You're almost comparing value stream management as a set of stuff that's correlating to digital transformation.
I actually think it is essential. I think it is an absolute critical pillar, just like in a bridge. I don't even want to think about the topics of bridges, but it is a critical supporting foundation, just as Agile is, and just as DevOps is. And we're actually seeing an interesting correlation, and hopefully in 21 we'll see a bit more. Let me just tell you what I'm saying. So I think Agile adoption is at 80%, and this is from the DevOps Institute, where I also do some work. And then DevOps adoption was 74%. Now, again, is this Agile at scale? Is this DevOps at scale, right? All these things, let's just leave it at that. And are they doing DevOps and Agile? Most likely. Value stream management adoption was 20%. Now, what I'm expecting, and that's a prediction, and I bet a case of champagne on that with you, Jeff.
You got it.
The prediction is that next year, VSM, or maybe in the 6 months, the beginning of 2021, that the value stream management adoption will go up, and there's no much more to rise in 74 and 80%, right? So those adoption will stay the same. So what we should be seeing is these three things should be coming at a similar level at some point in 21. That's my prediction for that case of champagne.
I think you're spot on, and I think there's some other factors that will help driving it as part of the transformation, which are, you said they're tightly connected, value stream management with digital transformation. Can you talk a bit about why people are interested in VSM and some of the reasoning that's pushing it along?
Sure. So I think the slide has a lot of good points already. So if we start from the moving to the modern architecture and cloud, again, the cloud adoption in the pandemic is incredible. These cloud vendors are making buku money, which is good. But the enterprises are actually going towards the cloud, right? Be it a SaaS, be it IaaS or PaaS or whatever characters you want to put in front of it, it's incredible. Everything else, microservices, containers, automation, everything which makes it resilient and which makes it scalable and allows us to be agile, allows us to be flexible is going to be very, very important. But are those the right investments? Again, that eye towards the value. it is not just enough to go and adopt, let's go in a different space. It's not enough just to adopt Salesforce to get out of SAP or another ERP vendor. It is really to adopt Salesforce because of the flexibility I have in that is quite interesting. So that's on the architecture side. On the way of working and the culture, again, we talked a little bit about that, right? The DevOps and the Agile, just completely different cultures. I come from the time of 1994, an IT operations manager and development manager at Hewlett Packard doing JCL and HP 3000 work on the Ingress and Oracle databases. So all of that DevOps and Agile stuff is we didn't have that. But if you think of the mainframe people, those who come out of the mainframe people, there's a lot of similarities. But point is, new ways of working, new cultures are being introduced, and the philosophy behind how these people work is completely different. And because of that, there is a demand for looking at it from a perspective of management in a different way, looking really across the different kinds of functions and capabilities to understand what actually happens to those deliverables I present to the customer. And I think there's one more thing associated with the digital transformation and the journey, and there's a lot of research Forrester has done on that, and I think many other analysts are doing. We're doing as well in terms of customer experience. Customer experience matters. It really matters. Think about the airline industry today. Think about the safety you are demanding if you even try to fly, right? Or just any experience you want to have, be it with your digital retailer, or be it with your healthcare provider, or be it with whatever you're trying to do. So this experience matters, and if the experience isn't valuable, we all who are today in IT, behind that curtain of our architectures and our methodologies and frameworks, we have failed the customer. And I think that's a change in philosophy, and needs to, and is happening because of pandemic and because of the shortage of budget, because people need to think, is it really the right thing we're doing?
Yep. Oh man, we could talk a lot about that one. But it's interesting as a new category of tools has come forward, namely value stream management. Feels like there's been a lot of Frank, I'm a vendor, right? So already everybody's like, discount whatever he said. We don't believe that. But it's fascinating the various perspectives that people have depending upon where they're coming from. Yes. But they're all part of the same type of topic, and depending upon the kinds of problems you're solving, there's appears to be several roads to value stream management. So is there a right road? How do you get started? What does this look like?
Yeah, is there a right road, or is there a wrong road? There is no wrong road in my life. There isn't, but let's see. The conversations are happening in different pockets of the organization, but there are different, let's say, stakeholders who have different goals, right? Let's just take, and this reminds me of a conversation I used to have with, again, at my former company with an analyst, Margot, who I love dearly, who actually covers PPM and ALM. And we were going on a strategy day for a vendor, and I got brought along at the time. And at the time I was wondering, why am I supposed to be there? Because I cover performance management, I cover release orchestration, and I cover, at that time we didn't have CI/CD. But the perspective really from all these different stakeholders, all of them are trying to do better in their relative states of where they're at and in their relative functions. So in the PPM, the project and portfolio team, kind of the starting out team who says and defines and talks to and understands where we're going and what's supposed to be happening from an innovation and a digital perspective. So of course they want to see the long run, and they want to see holistically. I think those are probably the most holistic thinkers from the beginning, but they don't really care much about the end. Well, they care about the end, but they don't care about the middle, right? Where the ALM people, they probably don't care too much about the beginning. They kind of care about the little bit less than the beginning and they don't care about the end because they don't want to see the end, because for them, application lifecycle management means forever ongoing. As an ops person, which is my profession, I am interested in making sure that everything happens with regards to the quality and speed I have promised upstream and downstream. So I have colleagues in testing, I have colleagues who are doing quality and governance and risk assessment, and I want to make sure that I have the right input and output, and I want to add value, because if I don't add value from my input to the output, why am I here? So those, I think, are the different constituencies. And then think about the performance management folks, those, and I've covered, APM and DPM and AI ops, and I still cover that from an analyst perspective. Those folks are interested in, of course, the digital experience, but they're interested in the experience at the moment. So if you, for example, book a flight or you buy a product with a particular vendor, that digital experience of the busy signal, which might just happen because you don't have the throughput and so on, that's what they care about. But they don't care about how that website or that order got there. They only know it's there, and that's the perspective. So you can start at any of those angles, but again, as this beautiful graphic shows, there has to be a page in the book which brings it all together for those who actually consume and those who actually are doing it. Let me give you an example of something which wasn't happening in this way, because there is a bubble you're missing. Maybe you might have left out, but service management or ITSM kind of fits there as well. So let me give you an example. In June of this year, the German government has introduced the COVID tracing app. As German engineers are really good, and a very famous company developed it, and it was a really good app. I have it on my iPhone. However, the challenge was that when the app was put on from the App Store, downloaded to your iPhone, they announced that there was a group of people who would actually provide the support for that app. Well, trying to call that support group was unsuccessful because they did not staff enough for actually answering the tickets and the calls. You get it, right? So yeah. From their perspective, so the value to me as an app user wasn't achieved. I took it off my phone because I didn't get my questions answered. And even after multiple calls, I can't go there because they sit somewhere in whatever and you can't visit them. An example of where nobody really thought through from a perspective of that book, that page in the book, of that app, of that software piece, to bring it all the way through from maybe a PPM through an ALM, through an automation, through an orchestration, or through a CI/CD, through an orchestration, through a performance management with a ITSM support call center to help them debug what's going on.
Yeah, that really is, isn't it? It's taking a view of the entirety of the value stream and putting all these pieces together into a single view, which, kind of takes us to why you've done research with this. You've been talking to people. Talk about why are people interested in VSM and what's the right reason to do VSM?
Yeah, so the benefits is a question, of course, I'm sure you get asked a lot when you're helping your sales teams and you go and discuss it with customers. I get a lot of questions as well, and I used to. But let me kind of step back one level above that, because we need to look at process hierarchy, or the hierarchy of processes, before we can discuss the benefits. Accidentally, I did my master's many years back. I won't tell you what year, because that would even make me more gray now.
We don't go there.
I had dark hair at the time. I did my master's on process engineering, and it was a very interesting project. But when you think about the hierarchy of processes, at the highest level, you have a value stream, right? A value stream is something which crosses functions, organizations at that highest level. And the goal of that is to really reduce the waste across these different functions and align them and connect them. And in an organization, there's many value streams. It's not just one. There's many, as you know. So that's the highest level of the value stream. the next level below is the process. That process is typically one or many processes, but processes are also inside functions and inside organizations, but they typically are, they don't have as many interfaces. Of course, there are in release orchestration, CI/CD, there's multiple processes, but they kind of tend to be very specific. And when the goal of process work and process work is really to reduce the interconnectivity and make sure that we have quality and efficiency of that process, right? Again, input, output, we add value. The next layer down is the task. The task is something which is really specific. It's usually one or many things. So many tasks make up a process. Many processes make up a value stream, and there's many processes across the different organizations which fit into that value stream which goes across. So if we look at it from that perspective, we need to make sure that we don't sub-optimize or that we start to tinker around the tasks, because the tasks we need to standardize. The goal is to standardize. But if we just standardize the task and we don't start doing the efficiency and the effectiveness on the process. Then, right, you kind of churn here, but there used to be a game I used to have. It's like these small wheels kind of going into each other, and it's like this big thing. Anyway, waving my hands. But you can't just do the small one, the task. You also have to do the process. But if you do the process and you only optimize the process and you don't optimize the value stream, which these process and tasks are participating in, again, you're sub-optimizing. So that's why it is important to think about when you do value stream management, the benefits you get are across at the highest level, connected to the next level, connected to the next level. So the benefits are you improve the quality of how these things work at this level, at this level, and at this level, because they need to have that like a wheel, right? They need to be interconnected with each other, moving along in this thing. And because of that, you also improve productivity, because you know what's coming and you know where it's going, and you can see from the big perspective of the value stream what's happening, but you can also bring in the stakeholders to understand what is happening in the process so that they can improve for the goal of the bigger improvements. Improving employee morale is also a benefit. Now, as a programmer on the HP 3000 JCL, I can tell you the morale at that time was very low, because we all felt like small little pieces without, all kind of going into different directions without really connecting to the bigger picture. And that was very detrimental to me as a brand new programmer. We needed something like this to show us, why are we reducing 127 data centers to 24 data centers? Not because the number 24 is smaller than the 127. That would be the, one argument, but that's not the right argument. And so we never really got to the point understanding it. And then customer satisfaction, which is ultimately why we're doing that. We're not doing it just because we want to feel better, we want to do better work. Of course, that's all important, but we're doing it so that our customers, our clients, our patients have a better experience with a well thought out end-to-end perspective, so that these customers feel good, that they're happy, that they stay with us and they buy and they consume, or they take care of, or they whatever they're doing when they're with us. So that's some of the benefits. Bottlenecks are being reduced, and if we don't have that capability to look end to end, we don't have the moral, we actually aren't able to innovate. And if we cannot innovate, we become laggards in this digital game, and that's not going to happen. That's not going to be successful in 21. And we see some cases already of organizations. Lloyd & Taylor's today, I think, announced, 50 stores closing in the US. If you look at their journey, if you look at their IT organization, what they've done, don't know for sure and won't share, but there are some challenges of organizations you can see who haven't deployed this kind of thinking.
Absolutely. I think it's going to continue. gap is going to widen between those that do and those that don't. I love all that as feedback. And I love the perspective of you have to start looking at this from a top-down perspective. You have to start looking at this from all the systems involved and look at it from the customer perspective. Really good insights of when you get in. When you're building a business case, I think you've given all the key details that someone building a business case of why you want transparency and visibility and how the efficiency and the benefit. I think it's spot on. So let's dive over. Now, you've done some research. I want to talk a bit about that because I think that's really cool. Because you've been talking to customers, you've been looking at what they're doing. Give us what do you see as the market trends here? So as you see things going on with digital transformation, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot, but of course we want to focus on those which are important. I think as a very bold statement, I want to say that value stream management is a must-do. It's not a nice-to-have anymore. So I have some, as you said, alluded to, I have some interesting data to support that. But in general, when we do digital transformations, again, or you're continuing the work, we have to have quality, we have to have velocity, we have to measure the ROI of what we do for the business, and we have to delight the customer. So let me show you some supporting facts of what organizations are doing relative to or saying when we ask them about their priorities.
I smile here because it's like you might be doing digital transformation, but if you're not measuring it, it's sort of like a tree falling in a forest. If you can't prove it, then what difference has it made? So okay.
And I think Jeff, there is a lot of media coverage on the digital transformation, and it's sometimes mind-boggling to me how simple it would be. Simple, of course. I'm not saying value stream management is simple, but when I see these media coverages on organizations who are not successful in the digital transformation because of they have not deployed the cloud right, or they haven't done the DevOps, or they haven't scaled Agile, I'm thinking, how do they know that? Have they,
right.
I mean, there's no,
I don't know.
There's no beef. It's like, where's the beef? So what we did is we asked about the investment drivers. Each vendor selection matrix, which is also VSM. So on the VSM for VSM, which is kind of interesting, we asked for the investment priorities. And you can see here, there are 3 key investment priorities why organizations are wanting to do that, to do value stream management. The first one, to really, really get the metrics which show the business value. I mean, this is like a duh. It's like,
wait, I thought success for a dev team was we didn't blow up production, woohoo!
Right. Well, the thing is, think about, again, the stakeholders, right? Each of these stakeholders have different perspectives on how they are going to be successfre, right? If I'm a developer, of course, my metric might be lines of code. Right. If I'm a SRE, I might be looked at and understand the error budget, and based on, or both the DevOps and the SRE team are measured on the error budget and the fulfillment or the balance of the error budget. If I'm a IT operations person, or a help desk or service desk, oops, shouldn't be saying help desk anymore, service desk agent, I am measured on the potential tickets I have closed or the knowledge articles I've written. But those are not valuable if I am the product owner for a particular application in a software factory, which almost every company is a software factory. I don't care about how many tickets you have closed or how many lines of code you have written. I care about how have you served our customers and how happy they are. Net present value, the ROI of the customer, the happiness of the customer, how effective are they getting orders, how emotionally are they connected to us, and how easy is the business they're doing with us. Those are the only 3 E's which matter. And so that's what the value lens needs to be providing, which is why organizations are saying, okay, we want metrics, but they need to be business value metrics, not just metrics around MTTR, MTTI, MTVA, whatever those different kinds of things are. Really metrics which show how we can be successful. The second one is cost, because not all investments, not all innovations are the right innovations. There is organizations who do financial management, but when did they do that? They do that once a year, maybe twice a year. They establish a budget. The budget somehow is being used. Maybe at the third quarter, the budget is already, they're over budget, or maybe they're under budget. Usually they're not under budget, they're over budget. But how do they know that what they have invested is the right thing for the community of product owners and the company as in itself? Be it, Porsche in the fight against, or in the war of electric cars. As you know, in Europe we have lots of challenges with diesel and so on. But how does Porsche know what they're doing relative to the software they're providing into their cars is the right software, or the applications they're putting in place for the engineers to work on are the right applications to help them develop the new Porsche whatever car they're doing? So that's the second one. And the last one, or the third one, is really the time required for the entire workflow through. Are we spending the right time and the right place, or are we sometimes, kind of like, not doing the right things? Again, I've seen enterprises. You've been in enterprises where you just go, okay, so why are they doing this now? This doesn't make any sense, because their CIO was talking about something completely different, and the line of business is very unhappy. They don't know that these guys are spending time on something which is really value add. And so those are some of the things. And there's a whole bunch of others you can see. AI capabilities, manage the value across the continuous process, collaboration. I mean, those are all more intrinsic. The extrinsic ones, or those who are really making a difference, are the top three there.
Yeah, one common little tad out of this that you can't really get from value without value stream management is a common problem I see is an enterprise is set up to invest in a certain number of things, but the technical debt and all the legacy stuff rears its head so much that it keeps introducing more stuff in there, that while you may have planned this, given the escalations and everything else that happened in the process, without connecting all that together, you'll never see what you actually did. And that's the point. So, well, all of this kind of takes us to the next bit of this that you worked on, which is, what were companies' goals then? If those were the investment strategy, what kind of goals did they have in the process?
This kind of sounds like the same, what is it called? The repeating wheel, I think, something like that. But it really is. It really is quality, improve quality, improve time to release, time to value, improving that mean time to get the value out, and measuring the outcomes in terms of the business value. And we've been talking about outcomes for a long time. Sometimes I hear organizations, and that's a little bit of a warning sign. So if those of you who are listening in are hearing the word IT and business alignment, that should be a big not a heart, but a big question mark should come up and go, I thought we are across that, because IT and business alignment, that's 80s, that's 90s. IT is the business. Business technology today is what drives organizations. There's very, very, very few companies today who don't have some technology, business technology, which drives them. And prove me wrong. I don't think there is any. Even the small shop we use. I just was member of a co-op, creating a co-op in my hometown. A cash register, right, connected to the ordering value chain of the folks where the products come from. That's software. So we're a small shop. So even there, we have to have business technology. So again, when you hear this business, we need to align to the business. Boom, that's a warning sign of you need to think about why you were there.
I better hustle us along. We got a few topics to hit here.
All right,
lots of stakeholders are interested. How does the how does the process change, for example, with product owners in the mix and product management on the rise? Because, you know, project to product, all these things are changing. How do you see the VSM stakeholder map expand or change there?
Yeah, so a product owner actually sees the whole thing. And again, back to the organizations, if you look at the individuals who lead different groups, like the release manager or the VP of infrastructure, the VP of operations, the VP of application development, the PMO owner, all of those are very much in this old, many of them are still in this old thinking that I own a process, I own a plant, I own a group, I own a department, and because of that, whatever we're doing is the right thing. And they're all happy with their achievements. They're happy with the MTTR, and they're happy, which is great. I mean, yes, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be doing that, but there is an and. The and is the product owner who is actually owns the holistic delivery of the product or the product to its target customer. The easiest comparison is, again, in the car manufacturing. We have product lines, right? There is like let's say Porsche again, because I live only 20 kilometers away from the Porsche factory, which is why I use that example. But you know, Porsche has multiple product lines, right? Porsche Cayenne, for example. If I'm the owner of the Porsche Cayenne, or Ford Fusion, let's take an American example. If I'm the owner of the Ford Fusion product line, I own the whole product of Ford Fusion, and everybody else is participating in this product from that perspective. It's a completely different philosophy, and that change from project running in my own organization versus running things as a product makes me think of holistically and requires that other stakeholders are participating. Just like when I do, another example is a choir or an orchestra, right? At the orchestra, I can be the conductor. I know my notes, and I know the percussion needs to be louder and the trumpets need to be calmed down. I, as the orchestrator in the front, as the conductor, I'm the product owner of the music you're hearing. Now, if you and the trumpet go really loud, I will have to tell you, calm down, Jeff, calm down. You're really ruining the piece. And so that's a different philosophy than the old philosophy of thinking, I'm doing my thing in my department, in my function, which is why this is a very different approach from a product owner.
And I think that's also going to be one of the critical aspects as you go forward. There's more and more push to go from project-oriented to product focus, which means there's a rise of a product manager that's coming forward. I'm going to skip over a bit of this because I want to make sure we get to the good and the bad and the ugly. I do want to hit the culture element because, you know, culture is a big deal. Can you talk just a bit about culture, and then we'll jump to the vendor space and the good and the bad and the ugly?
That sounds good. Yeah. So if you read this, build projects around motivated individuals, that's really part of the Agile Manifesto. And when we think about value stream management, what we're doing is we are opening up pretty much our kimono, and we're showing a variety of metrics to a variety of people, right? They see and have visibility into, again, somebody upstream or downstream sees a variety of topics and things. And by having visibility into metrics, we create trust, and trust creates collaboration. And when we have trust, we collaborate and we start working together on the same thing. And that's really, I think, a significant change from how organizations are doing things in the past to how organizations who have adopted value stream management, they have a trust with each other, and there's none of that, you know, pointing and silos, and, you know, it's really all about blameless. It's really all about creative and connecting and collaborating for the better of it in itself. And that is that word culture. Culture is empathy and trust, really.
Well, as soon as everyone's on the hook for not just did the system stay up or did I not introduce bugs, but everyone's on the hook for what's the NPS score, what's the adoption rate, the whole world changes. I like how you said that. The, you know, transparency and visibility creates trust and collaboration, and that's what creates efficiency. So you looked at the vendor space, and you saw a lot of people in this vendor space. Let's jump into what was the good. What did you see that was good in the market? Tell me about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of vendors in the market, so there's a lot of choices for organizations today, right? There's a lot of education. There's a lot of breadth and depth. In some vendors, it's more breadth and less depth. In some vendors, it's more depth and less breadth. Right. That's kind of, I think that's the good thing. Many of the vendors have really done a great job helping their customers move on, and to educating and helping them from a support and from a service perspective. So this year you can see the results. You can see Plutora is there. This is alphabetically ordered, but I can also tell you Plutora did a great job. It was great learning for me. There are many other vendors. I studied only 8. There were quite a few vendors who were deciding that this is not for them because they can't necessarily stand up to the crowd I had evaluated. Some of the vendors, because again, remember the way we do our work, we ask all those 1,500 people, we ask on strategy and execution, and some vendors just didn't get enough evaluations to actually be statistically sound. For us to be statistically sound, you have to have at least 39 responses. Otherwise, we will have to eliminate you out of the study as a vendor. So that's really, I think, the good for Plutora, and the good for those of you who are listening in. Certainly take a look at what Jeff has to say later on. I think he has a few slides for you.
True that. Well, let's get to the funny part, which is the bad. What did you find that was not so good?
Yeah. Lots of folks told us, again, I don't have the numbers in top of my head, but a lot of folks said we don't have the executive buy-in, which it is surprising to me.
Mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling.
I know. Again, I think it has to do with, Jeff, what I said earlier. It is this belief in many of those folks who are leading today that they're doing whatever they're doing within their own, they're measured on certain things, and they're not measured on outcomes. They're not measured on outcomes all the way to when it hits the customer. So organizations need to change that. They need to think about how do we actually measure our executives. So executive buy-in is really bad. That's a challenge. And budget constraints. Now, there is an oxymoron. Oxymoron, you know that word, right? Military intelligence is an oxymoron, right? So budget constraints, if we would apply VSM, we actually would remove waste, and that work we're doing could turn into innovations otherwise. I never understood that as well. But sometimes it takes, there's another word I like to use, it's called insanity. These folks may be just doing the insane thing, doing things over and over again, expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. I think those things will go away as organizations are seeing success stories, are seeing the value other organizations are doing. And I think COVID is helping us. I think the pandemic is helping us because the budget constraints are even further being reduced. They really need to take a look at what are they doing. So that's, again, I can't bet another case of champagne, but I make a bet that those things will change. I'll repeat the study again. I'm planning on in March, kicking it off in January for the survey. So having the results in February and have a new study in March. So hopefully that I think that will change.
And I think as this takes off, an aspect of that is for so long, executive leadership has been beaten into submission, like all the development's a black box. I can know what I'm planning and I can know what I'm operating, but everything that happens in between, no idea. We don't know, and that's changing. That's the point. So, and part of us, as if you're here on this webinar, your goal is to help provide transparency into that. So, well, let's get into the ugly. What was not so? What's really bad?
I hope folks remember that movie. If not, you should go watch it. It's really good. Internal silos. The silos are still existing. I have been beating my head on these silos forever. I've been an analyst for over 15 years, and I've seen them I don't know how long it will take till these silos will go away. I think it has also to do with the demographics. And so good things are coming our way. The new generation is taking over in these organizations as leaders, as individual contributors. So hopefully that will make a difference. But there's still a lot of internal silos, which are, walls. Don't seeing across from them. What do you see?
Exactly the same. And so often when people are trying to break these silos down, one of the most effective tools that you can do at any level is do a value stream mapping exercise for no other reason than to bring silos together to go, oh, wait, yeah, we are on the same business here of delivering value to our customers.
Yeah.
These are actually all...
Use the sticky notes.
Yes.
Use the sticky notes.
Exactly. These are all part of some of the impediments that you found while doing the research that you did.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. Kind of moving forward, I'll just talk a little bit. Yes, thank you. Plutora is lucky enough, as you said, we were listed here as the top 5. I think you said we were in the top 3. Really happy about that. And that's from a lot of research. I can't emphasize enough. Yes, Plutora is a vendor, but pick someone, pick a way, an entry path to get to VSM. Plant the seed from an executive point of view that you can now have transparency in what's happening, and we can measure business value and customer satisfaction. We can measure the actual cost of delivery. What is value stream management? What is it? Well, let me tell you what Plutora looks like. We're a 3-layer cake as we describe it. So in essence, what Plutora does is a cloud-based platform that's a value stream management platform. We hook to the development tool chain from idea all the way to production. We ingest that data into a common data model. The secret sauce is the common data model, because that way you already know what ideas look like, you know what builds look like, you know what versions look like, you know what tests look like, you know what defects, and all the way along. You just have to do the last mile transformation of whatever tooling you're looking at, hook up the adapters and go. In ingesting that, all the data, regardless and independent of the tooling, looks the same. That's the value. Now you can then move data across tools. You can connect your service desk to your defect system so that the developers are working on the same sheet of music. In essence, the value stream gets decorated from beginning to end, depending upon which tool is feeding that portion of the value stream. Now, Plutora also has 2 more really interesting layers. A management orchestration layer, so that you can manage the value stream delivery from idea to production, put a workflow, put the activities, put the standards, the governance and phases of delivery, inspection points and gates along the whole way. We also enable test environment management, where you can have a booking system and knowledge of the pre-production environments, and a deployment management system. It doesn't matter how far automated you are. If you're just getting started, please, this is your point to start. If you're completely automated, then feed the data in. You'll get more value out of it when you're done. The 3rd layer to this cloud-based solution is the analytics layer and the decision making. And this is where the meat of it comes. You're going to get dashboards that give you analytics, not just reporting, but the ability to do comparative analysis, follow your nose kind of capability, where you can look at the value delivered, look at it over time, compare teams, compare methodologies, regions, product lines, technologies, and really get the ability to get in there. I like what we have been talking about. With transparency comes trust, and with that transparency and trust comes improved collaboration, comes improved quality, and most importantly, velocity. You're going to deliver value on target and more of it. All of these are part of the Plutora platform. When you get these things all together, you'll get all sorts of dashboards and really a rich system of record for the entire software factory. In essence, this is a catwalk over the factory floor. Now you can see virtual, you can have insights into the virtual elements of what's happening. So I'm going to stop there because we just have a couple of minutes for questions. And then I've got to turn it over. In fact, I think I only have 2 minutes for questions if we really run out of time here. In developing a value stream management solution from a systemic level, when you run into many barriers that are identified and many of the processes, how do you figure out who's responsible to begin improving those barriers?
Well,
Go ahead.
you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Go
Okay,
ahead, take a swing at
we
that.
don't have time to go. You first, then I well, each process has there must be a process owner, right? I mean, there must be somebody who either owns this process or owns the input to the process or owns the output to the process. That would be my first starting point to go to and have a conversation and really understand, hey, what is happening here? Sometimes if that's not, I can't imagine that there is no owner for that. If that person is hiding, then maybe to the next level above. Asking questions, instead of, assuming things, asking the right questions, or asking questions, the right questions you don't know, but asking questions. That would be my first response.
Yep.
What would you say?
Completely agree. I think, again, one of the best forms, you'll highlight that, and especially if there's a lack of ownership, do a value stream map of that process and make sure that's a sticky note on the board. And you'll just highlight the fact, gosh, we spent a lot of time here and there's a lot of rework. Feels like a dead spot in our value stream, and you will get people coming out of the woodworks suggesting solutions, and from solutions being suggested, you'll get owners. Just do the exercise. So looks like we have run ourselves out of time, but it's so much fun to have this conversation with you, Evelyn. You're just fun. So
Jeff, I keep telling you that you guys need to book these webinars for like 90 minutes or so. And even then, I think you'd probably still run out of time because you guys always have so much to say, and it's always interesting and compelling. So I wish I could give you more time, but unfortunately that's all the time that we do have for the question and answer period, which is a drag because we got so many great questions in. But if Jeff didn't get to your question, which is pretty much everybody, please know that the folks at Plutora will be getting a copy of all of the questions that came in, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to follow up with you offline to get your question answered. So fear not. Also want to remind the audience that today's event has been recorded. So if you missed any or all of today's webinar, or if you just want to watch it again, you will have the opportunity to do so. Following today's webinar, we will be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. And the webinar is also going to be living on the devops.com website. So you can always go look for it there. Just go to devops.com/webinars, look in the on-demand section, and it should be right there waiting for you. All right, so before we close things out, I did mention at the top of the hour that we would be doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So real quick, let's go ahead and do that. All right, today's winners are, the first winner is Barbara H. Congratulations, Barbara. Yay. Second winner today is Peter L. Congratulations, Peter. Our third winner is Rebecca P. Congratulations, Rebecca. And our fourth and final winner today is Stephanie L. Congratulations, Stephanie. We'll be following up with all four of you offline via email to get your gift card over to you. So please check your email. If it's not there in your inbox, please check your spam folder. Jeff, Evelyn, such great stuff as always. A compelling conversation. Just jam-packed full of good stuff. So thank you so much for your time, for your expertise. As always, a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, this has been really fun. And by all means, Evelyn and I are both on LinkedIn. If you have additional topics or thoughts, I can't tell you enough how much you need to talk to Evelyn. If you know, Research in Action is a great resource for you. So by all means, I'm a vendor. I have that bias, but by all means, reach out to me as well. All right. Yes, you heard it here, folks. Go ahead and reach out to Jeff or Evelyn. Both of them are available to you on LinkedIn. And I also do want to thank the audience for joining me today. This is Charlene O'Hanlon, and I'm signing off. Have a great day, everybody. I hope everybody stays safe. Bye.